Okay, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into a sector that might fly under the radar a bit, but it's absolutely crucial. We're talking about the global industrial coating powder market. Our goal here is simple. Give you a real shortcut to understanding this pretty significant industry. We want to cut through the dense data and pull out the key takeaways for you.
Exactly. And the data we're using today, it comes from excerpts from Global Industrial Coating Powder Market, Trends and Projections, provided by Cognitive Market Research. And these aren't just abstract numbers. They really paint a picture of strong global demand and, frankly, impressive growth ahead. We're here to help decode that picture.
All right, so let's start with that big global view because this isn't just, paint for your house. Think about the tough finish on appliances, on cars, heavy machinery.
It's everywhere in manufacturing.
Right. And the market reflects that. The source material shows global sales revenue back in 2021 was already huge.
Yeah, was it over 12 billion?
Just over, $12,072.9 million, so $12 billion. But here's the interesting part, the growth. Projections show it hitting over $15 billion by 2025.
$15,267.6 million to be exact.
And then looking further out to 2033, it's projected to soar past $24 billion.
$24,417 million. That's a big jump.
It really is. And that translates to a compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of just over 6%, 6.045%. So thinking about what this means for you, our listener, it points to this rapid, ongoing expansion of a really foundational industrial component. Affects almost everything manufactured.
And what stands out to me is just how consistent that upward trend is. When you connect that to the wider economy, these numbers, they're a strong signal, right? A healthy, growing industrial base globally.
It's definitely a key indicator.
Tells you a lot about where manufacturing and development are headed worldwide.
Okay, so now let's start zooming in, because the regional stories, they add a lot of nuance. Let's kick things off with North America. In 2021, this region brought in nearly $1.7 billion. That's $1,678.33 million. And that's projected to grow pretty substantially, hitting almost $3 billion by 2033.
$2,930.04 million.
With a regional CAGR around 4.74%.
So solid growth.
Solid growth, yeah. But inside North America, there are slight differences. The U.S. obviously makes up the bulk of it. About $1.37 billion in 2021, growing at 4.622%.
As you'd expect, yeah.
But Canada, while smaller at $161 million in 2021, actually shows a slightly higher growth rate.
Oh, interesting. What's the CAGR there?
It's 5.539%. And Mexico is also growing strong, starting at about $146 million and growing at 4.903%. So what do you make of those variations, Canada growing a bit faster than the U.S., for example?
Well, that's a great point. The U.S. is the largest, most mature market within the region. Sometimes slightly slower growth is natural there.
Right.
Canada's higher CAGR. It could point to specific things, maybe sector-specific growth, a rebound in manufacturing, or new infrastructure pushes.
Could be. Things needing those durable coatings.
Exactly. And Mexico's strong growth, well, that fits perfectly with its expanding role as a key manufacturing hub, particularly for exports, right?
Makes sense. Each country's industrial landscape kind of shapes its specific growth path.
Precisely, even within an interconnected region.
Okay, let's pivot now. Over to Europe. A really diverse industrial base there, obviously. And the numbers show, well, a varied picture, but still growing overall.
So what are the headline figures for Europe?
The total market in 2021 was around $1.3 billion. $1,291.8 million, forecasted to hit over $2.3 billion by 2033.
$2,319.61 million.
And the overall regional CAGR is just over 5%, 5.107%.
Okay, so still quite healthy.
Definitely. But what's really interesting here is the range within Europe. Take Germany, for example, a major industrial player. Their CAGR is strong, close to 5.9%, 5.853%.
Yeah, that tracks with their manufacturing strength.
Right. The UK is also solid at about 5.4%. Spain and Sweden are both over 5.3%. But then you look at, say, Russia. Their 2021 market was smaller, about $66 million, and the projected CAGR is the lowest in the region.
How low?
Around 3.5%, 3.52%.
Wow, that's a noticeable difference compared to Germany.
It really is. And France is also a bit lower, around 4.5%. Italy around 4.75%. Even places like Switzerland and Luxembourg are under 5%.
So what does that wide range tell us?
Well, what's fascinating is exactly that range, like you said. Germany's strength clearly points to, its automotive and advanced manufacturing sectors continuing to thrive.
Sure.
The slower growth in Russia, though, I mean, that could be a mix of things, right? Economic factors, geopolitical issues.
Sanctions maybe less focus on modernizing certain industries compared to Western Europe?
Yeah, exactly. It really underlines the different economic climates and industrial priorities playing out across the continent.
Very true. A complex picture.
All right, now, let's unpack the absolute giant in this market, Asia Pacific.
The power.
Absolutely. This region isn't just the largest, it's also showing some incredibly dynamic growth.
Hmm.
Get this. The total market revenue in 2021 was already a massive $7.4 billion, 7,442.92 million.
Wow. That's more than half the global total right there.
Easily. And it's forecasted to just explode, heading over $15.7 billion by 2033.
15,712.3 million to grow.
Incredible, with a regional CAGR of over 6.4%, 6.432%.
The highest regional growth rate we've seen so far.
Exactly. And then you drill down into the countries.
Yeah.
It's even more eye-opening. India. India stands out with the highest individual country CAGR in the entire report we looked at.
Really? What
Over 7.3%, 7.386%, starting from $922 million in 2021.
That is phenomenal growth.
Isn't it? And China, already huge at $2.35 billion in 2021, is still growing incredibly fast at over 6.6% CAGR.
Right.
And look at Southeast Asia as a block, over 7.1% growth. Singapore is also high, over 6.8%.
Japan and South Korea are also showing strong growth, right? Around 5.7 and 6% respectively.
Correct. Japan at 5.703%, South Korea at 6.01%, Australia a bit lower but still solid at 5.195%.
So connecting this to the bigger picture, Asia Pacific scale combined with that really aggressive growth.
Especially India and Southeast Asia.
Yeah, it just points to this massive industrial expansion and modernization wave, doesn't it?
Totally.
India's surge probably reflects rapid industrialization, huge infrastructure projects, a booming domestic consumer market.
All needing these coatings.
And China, well, it's already a giant, but clearly still investing heavily in upgrading and expanding its industrial base.
So no question, this region is the engine driving a lot of the global growth.
It absolutely explains the dominant market share and those high growth figures. It's where a huge amount of global manufacturing is centered and growing.
Okay, next stop on our tour. Let's head south to South America.
Another region showing growth.
Yes, significant and consistent growth here too. The market in 2021 was just over $615 million. $615.716 million, and it's projected to more than double, reaching almost $1.3 billion by 2033.
$1,299.47 million.
With a regional CAGR that's actually quite strong, over 6.4%, 6.404%.
Wow, nearly as high as Asia Pacific's overall rate.
Pretty close, yeah. Now, Brazil is the biggest market there, around $276 million in 2021. Growing at about 6.3%.
Okay, it makes sense.
But here's another interesting point. Some other countries are actually growing faster. Argentina, for instance. Smaller market, about $106 million, but its CAGR is projected near 7%, 6.952%.
Really? That's high.
And Chile, too, starting around $60 million, growing at 6.62%.
So what's driving that? Why are Argentina and Chile potentially outpacing Brazil in growth rate?
Well, it's fascinating, isn't it? Their contribution to the regional growth is disproportionately high.
It must point to specific industrial developments happening there, maybe related to mining or resource sectors, or perhaps automotive assembly is picking up.
Will be infrastructure investment, too.
Definitely. It suggests, maybe the emergence of new manufacturing hotspots or a concentrated push for industrial upgrades within those specific South American economies.
A sign of diversification within the region.
I think so.
All right, moving across the globe again, let's look at the Middle East, another region showing significant expansion.
What are the numbers there?
Total market in 2021 was around $555 million. $555.351 million, expected to grow to over $1.1 billion by 2033. $1,151.75 million.
Okay.
And the regional CAGR is solid, around 6.25%, 6.249%.
Also quite strong. Any standouts within the Middle East?
Yes, definitely. Turkey and the UAE are showing particularly robust growth. Turkey started at about $109 million and is growing at over 6.5% CAGR.
Okay.
And the UAE, starting from $94 million, has an even higher projected CAGR, nearly 6.9%. 6.888%.
Wow, UAE almost hitting that 7% mark like Argentina.
Exactly. Saudi Arabia is the largest market, $143 million in 21, but growing slightly slower at 6.3%. Egypt is around 5.7%.
So this raises that question again, doesn't it, about industrial diversification, particularly in the Gulf. The strong growth in Turkey, and especially the UAE, It really suggests a strategic push, a focus on building up industries beyond just oil and gas.
Investing in manufacturing, construction, infrastructure.
Exactly. Maybe even tech-related industries that need these kinds of advanced coatings.
Hmm.
It points towards that shift to a more diversified economic model.
Makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's round out our global tour in Africa.
How's the market looking there?
Also experiencing significant expansion. The total market in 2021 was nearly $490 million, $488.951 million, and it's projected to cross the $1 billion threshold by 2033.
1,003.78 million, so doubling there as well.
Pretty much. The overall CAGR for Africa is around 5.7%, 5.683%.
Still healthy growth.
Very healthy. Now, within Africa, South Africa is the dominant player by a significant margin. Its market was almost $196 million in 2021.
Okay, a big chunk of the total.
Yeah. And importantly, it also shows a stronger growth rate than the regional average, almost 6.3% CAGR, 6.274%.
Right. Nigeria's is the next biggest, $74 million, growing at around 5.9%. The rest of Africa category grows a bit slower, around 5%.
So what's the significance of South Africa's lead here?
Well, connecting it back, South Africa's large share and slightly higher growth rate really highlights its relative industrial maturity on the continent. It has established manufacturing, infrastructure.
Kind of sets the pace.
Exactly. It sets a pace for the broader African market. The growth there probably reflects ongoing industrial activity, maybe infrastructure development, and rising domestic demand for durable goods.
So its performance is a useful barometer for the continent.
I think it gives us a good indication, yeah. It reflects the potential and the activity happening across the wider African industrial landscape.
Okay, so we've toured the world, looked at a lot of numbers. Let's try to synthesize this. What does this all mean for you listening in when you look at the whole global picture?
Well, the first thing is just reinforcing that initial point.
Robust global demand.
Absolutely. Strong growth prospects pretty much everywhere we looked across all regions. That's the headline.
And second, Asia-Pacific is clearly the dominant force, both in sheer size, holding the lion's share of the market.
And in growth rate, posting the highest regional CGR.
And third, within Asia-Pacific, India's individual performance is just, well, remarkable. That 7.3% plus CGR is a massive engine for the global market, really highlights that rapid industrialization story.
Definitely a key driver.
And finally, even with all the regional variations we discussed, the different key GRs in Europe, Welcome to the deep dive. Look around you, maybe at your car or the appliances in your kitchen, even parts of buildings. What if I told you there's this kind of silent, unseen revolution happening? Something's shaping how durable they are, how they look.
Okay, interesting lead-in.
Well, today we're looking at industrial coating powders. It's a pretty fascinating force in manufacturing.
It really is. A lot going on there.
Yeah, and we're drawing directly from cognitive market research here. We want to uncover what's driving their growth, but also, the hurdles they face.
And where it's all headed.
Exactly. So, ready to dive in.
Let's do it. What's really fascinating, I think, is that the biggest driver isn't just like being green.
Right.
It's this growing demand for finishes that are super durable and eco-friendly. Powder coatings, well, they give you that long-lasting protection, and they significantly cut down the environmental impact compared to, say, traditional liquid paints. Less waste, lower energy use.
Which means cost savings, too, right, over time.
Precisely. It becomes a strategic business choice, not just compliance. Especially huge in automotive, aerospace, construction. Those sectors really need it.
That's a crucial point. It's not just the green angle.
Yeah.
I mean, think about how much the car industry and construction are booming globally.
Like absolutely massive growth.
So they need solutions that are tough, look good, and work for mass production. That seems like exactly where powder coatings fit in perfectly.
That's the sweet spot. Enhancing car parts, architectural metal, giving them resilience and a great finish.
And the tech keeps getting better, I assume?
Oh, constantly. We're seeing new formulations all the time. Better heat resistance, better corrosion resistance.
Okay.
And also innovations in how they're applied, like electrostatic spraying.
Explain that a bit.
Well, basically you charge the powder particles electrically. So they're sort of magnetically drawn to the surface you're coating.
Clever. So you get a really even coat.
Exactly. Very even. Which means you can use them on more complex shapes now, places where it used to be tricky.
Okay, so you've got durability, eco-friendliness, these tech advances. It sounds almost, well, perfect.
Well,
So what's the catch? I mean, what's stopping everyone from using them for everything? Where's the difficulty?
Yeah, there are definitely hurdles. The big one, high initial investment.
Ah, the cost.
Right. You need specialized gear. We're talking complex spray booths, big curing ovens. It's not just buying a can of paint.
Significant capital needed up front then.
Very significant. And that can be a real barrier, especially for, smaller businesses or workshops.
Okay, that makes sense. And I heard they aren't always great for really intricate shapes either.
That's another point, yes. Very complex designs or surfaces with super fine details can be challenging.
So you might get uneven spots.
Yeah.
Or have to redo it.
You can, yeah. It requires quite a bit of precision. Get it wrong, and rework can be expensive.
Any other challenges?
Well, there's the application environment itself. These powders can be sensitive.
How so?
High humidity, big temperature swings,
Hmm.
things like that can mess with the coating quality, the reliability.
Ah, so in places with extreme weather, that could be an extra problem.
Definitely an extra hurdle to manage in some regions.
Okay. But despite these obstacles, you said the market's evolving fast. So, looking ahead, past these challenges, what's next? What does the future look like?
Well, we're definitely seeing a growing demand for more customization, more color options.
Ah, aesthetics.
Exactly. Manufacturers want a wider palette, especially in cars and consumer goods where, how something looks is critical.
Makes sense. And that sustainability theme we talked about, is that still growing?
Absolutely accelerating. Companies are putting serious R&D into low VOC, even zero VOC formulations.
VOC being volatile organic compounds.
Correct. And it's not just about meeting stricter regulations, though that's part of it. Customers are demanding greener products, too.
Right. Consumer pressure.
Big time.
Yeah.
And another huge opportunity, expansion into developing economies.
Where specifically?
Think Asia Pacific, Latin America. You got rising incomes, rapid industrial growth.
So they need durable, cost-effective coatings for all this new manufacturing.
Precisely. And powder coatings are really well positioned to meet that need. Resilient, efficient solutions.
So quite a journey we've taken there through the growth drivers, the real-world challenges, and these exciting future trends for industrial coating powders.
Yeah, and if you connect this to the bigger picture, you start to see it. These coatings are often silently really shaping the durability, the look and feel of so many things around you.
Your car, kitchen appliances.
Your home, maybe, just everywhere, often without you even realizing what's providing that protection or color.
It really goes deep, doesn't it? I mean, think about maybe the finish on a high-end bike frame,
Good example.
or even the protective layer on certain medical devices. That could be powder coating too.
Very possible.
It's just a great example of how these kind of behind-the-scenes technologies are always evolving. And they're not just changing how things are made, but the actual quality, the resilience, even the colors and textures available in the products you use every single day. Something to think about.